there's something known as a zero-day attack. And a zero-day attack means it could be a vulnerability that has never been discovered. For example, you might be using a Windows Server 2012 or 2016. It has been, it might not have been discovered that this vulnerability, this Windows Server could be having a certain vulnerability. That's what you call a zero-day. Zero-day means it's not known. So somebody gets to know about this vulnerability, and that cyber attacker compromises your network. Before maybe Microsoft realizes that we need to provide an update to patch the server, the attack might happen. So in the instances of a zero-day, it is possible to be attacked based on that. You also asked about how to deal with cyber attacks. In my presentation, I talked about having a service level agreement. The service level agreement will contain an escalation matrix if you're dealing with, whether it's internal or external. If you're dealing with the external providers, they'll tell you who is the contact person. When an attack happens, who's the first person you call? And if after 10 minutes, for example, if you have not received assistance, what's the next course of action? So that escalation matrix will provide to you, first of all, it will categorize a different kind of attacks, different kind of severities of attacks, and the action that you can take. And also internally as an organization, you must have an incident response plan. I talked about how you have the fire drills. From time to time, you do the fire drills, because a fire drill, or you have fire drills nowadays, you have even security drills to mimic terrorist attacks. If a terrorist attacks you, what is the first thing you should do? So in the same way, you should have cyber drill. If your system, your email server is attacked, what's the next course of action? What's the first course of action? So that will assist you to be ready to respond to cyber attacks. The next question was about, you asked me to speak on web-based systems in the context of cybersecurity. So in the advent of the internet, we are seeing that organizations now more and more are automating. They're going online. So we can't really escape from the internet. And one of the ways in which people access the internet is using the web applications. Web applications is a secure way of accessing the internet, subject to the proper awareness creation and training of your staff. As ICT, you need to ensure that your browsers, your web browsers are updated frequently, because if they're not updated, then one of the users might be accessing a system with an outdated browser, and that might make them susceptible to an attack. So web attacks, web-based systems are secure in respect to accessing online services, but subject to proper hygiene, proper cyber hygiene practices. There are no systems that are foolproof, but you need to, it's a constant, because of online, if any system that is online facing, there is need to constantly update those systems. Update your antivirus, update your firewalls to ensure that they're current. Then there was about, I think it was about the different levels in the network. That question, same question, whether there is need to have different layers. There's something known as a zero trust network. It's like saying the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Previously, we had intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems that provided security to the network up until the point of the firewall. But once you get access to into the network, then an attacker, if once they compromise the firewall, they would have a free hand moving throughout your network. But it was proven that this is not a secure way to run your organization. So there's need to compartmentalize your network. Each service could be on its own network. It's a subnet. So if you have maybe the finance, the system to be on a different network from procurement and any other function, HR, so that in case one of the units is compromised, then the attacker will not be able to have a holistic view of the entire network. So this the communications or ICT has to be subjected to an acceptance test. So this is one of the ways in which the authority is doing to ensure that the equipment coming into the country is secure. We also have what is known as the Gartner chart. Whenever you're deploying an ERP or a security integrated system, the Gartner chart could provide you with an overview of some of the vendors within the cybersecurity space that are reputable, like Dell, Cisco, Palo Alto. So the Gartner chart would give you some insights on the credibility and reliability of the systems that you're deploying. And also in terms of type approval of equipment, we are now in the process of incorporating cybersecurity, because traditionally type approval was about telecommunications equipment. So the cybersecurity aspect was missing. But now, there are efforts being currently undertaken by the authority to ensure that, for example, your home routers, the router provided by internet service providers for use at home, how secure are they? So there is need, the authority is in the process of incorporating that element of cybersecurity in the type approval process. Question 4. The question was about a comparison between a cloud system vis-a-vis an on-premise system, I believe. As I mentioned earlier, a cloud system basically means it gives you an opportunity for you to access data, applications, and various other services as and when you require those services without necessarily owning that infrastructure. So in terms of efficiency, in terms of cost, in terms of staffing needs, it reduces your overall expenditure, as opposed to having an on-premise. And also in terms of access controls. Who are the people accessing the server room? Can the system administrator come over to the office on the weekend and perform some transaction without anybody knowing? So those are some of the checks and balances which can guide you on determining which is the best model to deploy for your organization in terms of either cloud or on-premise. Question 5 was about the mechanisms to assist in case of an attack. I mentioned about the cyber drills, having an incident response plan, and SLAs, because those ones will assist you in recovering or mitigating cyber attacks. So there is need for each SACCO or each organization to have those cyber security policies in place, and not just on paper, but there's need to constantly sensitize staff with the provisions of the policy, train the staff, and actually have an active incident response plan. Also, the same question there was a concern about officers from the EACC pretending to be masquerading as genuine staff. Well, social engineering is one of the hardest ways of, because there is no technical solution to social engineering. Because social engineering takes advantage of the human nature of trusting. When somebody calls you and they seem to know things about you or have information about you, there's a tendency for you to trust them. So I think it's a question of all members of staff being trained before you take any action, because EACC allows you to call back and you can get the information. So I think that's one of the ways in which you can do that. Even Communications Authority has had incidents where people pretend to be staff of the authority taking enforcement action in town and other places within the country. So it's also an issue that has affected CA. Question 6 was about dealing with cybersecurity at CA, the scope. What is the scope? In my presentation, I talked about the 6 sectors of the economy that we had sort of identified as being the most critical. And I also talked about what we call sectoral SATs, sectorial computer incident response teams. These are like security operation centers. So each sector of the economy, the critical sectors of the economy need to have their own security operation centers to coordinate the resolution of incidents within that space. So the national SAT coordinates resolution of cyber threats at that level. So amongst all the sectors. So that is the scope of CA scope. Our role is mostly coordination and issuing technical advisories and responding to incidents. We'll give you technical advice on how you can respond to incidents. So SASTRA could also, as a regulator for SACCOs, could also become one of our partners. And we should be working towards having SASTRA, because we also share threat information to our various stakeholders, which now SASTRA can then disseminate to the SACCOs. Because if you notice that there's a certain threat vector that is affecting financial institutions, then we can share that information with SASTRA. Then SASTRA will now disseminate to all the other SACCOs. So that's one of the ways in which we can partner with the SACCOs. So I think this also touches on the question 7, whereby somebody asked who represents SACCOs nationally. Of course, SASTRA is a regulator, so we could work hand in hand with CA to see how best to assist the SACCOs in dealing with these cyber threats that keep on increasing every other day. With regard to the regulations on AI, currently, I think it's only in Europe where they seem to have a law. The European Union, I think, is the only place where they have regulations touching on artificial intelligence. But changing all the time. So you might want to regulate. By the time you publish, those regulations are already outdated. We can't really run away from artificial intelligence because it's here with us. So I think what we need to do is to see how best we can use artificial intelligence technologies to improve our processes, our business processes, because we can't run away from it. So as opposed to being afraid that it will replace human beings at work, I think the approach should be more that, like, how can I align myself to AI technologies to make myself relevant as you go ahead. National log management. I'm not sure the financial sector will want to share its logs with the public, or because actually this is one of the biggest challenges we're having in the financial sector, because organizations within the financial sector do not easily report or disclose information about the cyber attacks that they've suffered. For obvious reasons, there is reputational risk. You know, now in the advent of social media, just a single tweet can go viral within a very short time. And you've seen in the past whereby just some rumors floated around about a certain bank going under, and everybody rushed to withdraw their money. So currently there is no national log management in place. I think right now we just advise organizations to every 1 year to conduct a penetration test on your networks and maybe a forensic audit. Then regularly the ICT staff can conduct a healthcare system checklist, which they would share with their respective directors or managers as a best practice for ensuring that your systems are secure. There was a question about the turnaround time for cyber attacks as reported to the authority. Okay, let me talk about, we do have a service charter, both internal and external service charter, but this particular one would relate to the external service charter. So currently our external service charter provides for a turnaround time of 18 days for a cyber threat, a cyber attack. But this is also very subjective because there are some attacks that are quite complicated. There are some certain attacks that need maybe forensic analysis of maybe a mobile device or an email system or a network. So others might need the intervention of a third party. So sometimes it's not within your control. You can't really decide how long the resolution of a cyber attack might take. But generally, the service charter provides for 18 days for the resolution of a cyber attack. In terms of the board, and the IT staff may be using a lot of jargons, and they might not be aware of exactly what is happening in the organization. I think I mentioned about penetration testing from reputable audit firms or organizations. CA also conducts penetration testing to agencies within the public sector on request. If you need your systems to be checked, we can facilitate for that. But I also talked about the zero trust network. I think implementing a zero trust network will really help an organization in terms of managing the reliability of your network. I think that's all. About 8 questions. Yeah.
Yes, you're going to agree with me. This is not our ordinary talk. Some of us really floated, including myself. At one time, I was asking, which question are you answering? But now that majority of people have understood, and we have ICT experts here, probably they would want to hear something from Plester, because there's a question that addresses SASRA directly. Possibly, Plester, you will be able to simplify it the way C30 simplified it.
Thank you. I think I'll take 3 questions. And the first one is about SASRA being part of the KSAT team. I think late last year we were admitted. We had written to the Communication Authority, and currently I'm sitting in those meetings. Yeah, I'm okay. Okay. So currently I sit in their meetings, and soon we shall be contacting Sacco so that we can give us emails where we shall be sending the alerts and be able to coordinate those issues to do cybersecurity. So we are part of the team that sits in the KSAT. We meet with all the sectors in the country, including CBK and the telecoms. So there was a question about audit firms, and we said tomorrow we shall have somebody coming from the body that deals with experts in ICT audit and security. So tomorrow you will be able to answer how you can have a vetted list of experts in that area. And I think we have also attempted to answer that question of listing ICT auditors, just like we do for the normal auditors from ISPAC. I think it's an equivalent body to INSPAC, though it is not anchored in any law, but it's an association for the industry, which is international. It has standards of its own that ensures ethics, and you can even report when you are not satisfied with their work. So tomorrow morning, you'll be able to answer questions on that side. So the other question was on, I think, the number of audits that you should do. Standards recommend an annual audit, but when it comes to pen test, the penetration testing, it usually should be a little bit more in a year, at least twice in a year, because security has an element of operations in it. Today you will be secure, but the way your staff conduct themselves, because systems work with settings, those settings change from time to time. So the penetration testing is usually recommended to be a little bit frequent to make sure that anytime you are ready to withstand an attack. So there was a question on security on Sacco Central. I think it is in design. So Sacco Central is a shared services that has been in development. We know that security is going to be a challenge because we are bringing so many Saccos in one place, and that brings interest to the malicious people. However, recognizing that challenge means that we have to invest in security. And sometimes I look at security just like the normal security. It has an element of resources in it. And the resources is about money. So, for example, if you have money and you have built a house, you can build a wall. If you don't have money, you may not afford to build a wall. If you have more money, then you can go ahead and hire 24 security guards to guard your home. Those who have more money, they can get security dogs, right? You can go ahead and even connect yourself to the police station because you can afford it. However, if you can't do all that, what is the safest way? Live in a gated estate, because there, all those services can be shared at a cheaper way. So in the shared services, we are looking at it in that direction, and with the resources shared among many SACCOs, we can invest in any security that you can ever think of. So that's how we are looking at it in the shared services. So I think these are the comments that I could make on those questions that touched on SASRA. So to just summarize, security is mainly a resource issue. If you look at the SACCOs that are suffering more, these are the SACCOs that cannot be able to afford the recommended security standards. And there was a question about how do you know that you are secure? So in the industry of security and IT control and audit, we have very many standards that you can use, and one of them is ISO. So one way you can do is to benchmark with that standard. Maybe you have that standard and you implement the recommendation in that standard, and you make sure that you have audits to confirm whether the standards in your place are working. So international standards are the best way currently that you can deal with issues of whether you are secure or not. There are a lot of recommendations on what you can do in those standards, the kind of investment and preventive measures that you can put. So if you want, maybe tomorrow when you go to your offices to know how secure you are, pick one of the standards your IT experts know. Then from that standard, you can study it or have somebody independent to assess your environment, your ICT environment, based on that standard. And from the outcome of the standards, you can know whether you are secure or not. So encourage your people in your ICT department to consider those standards, and maybe also become part of those associations that look at issues to do with security and IT audit. So I think I'll reach there. Thank you.
Thank you, Plester. Now, Sitati, if they call you again, you see, Plester has been able to simplify other what you had simplified. The SASO is like the gated community that the attack or the security features that you pay for individually, it was paid for correctly. Thank you, Plester, for making it interesting. Now, I want to believe there is a final out. Ernest? I think we will be calling you many times because either the audience have understood everything or we want to be taken pole-pole. That is one of the conclusions. Share here before.
Thank you. I think I've been just awakened by Presta that there are meetings that are going on between Central Bank, SASRA, CA, and I want just to know, and some of the leaders here have already suffered. When there is an attack, sometimes luckily some of these fraud stars, they are able to be gotten maybe in one financial institution or the other. You find that the funds that have been transferred, maybe from SACCOs, they find themselves in the mobile phones, in various financial institution banks, and we are happy that some of the network providers like Safaricom, they are able to stop that, to hold that money from being taken away. But when you go through now to get that money, because this fraud, this is not just transaction money. You go, you are told, go to the police, you get the order. Once you have gotten this order, you take it to the various those institutions, but you find that those institutions are not even shaken. Even the owners of the Safaricom, the numbers, they are also fighting back. You find that your money will be there for a long time, let's say this, and there's nothing happening. You have gone to the police, you have gotten the court order, you have given it to the respective institution, they are not shaken. And this is fraud, this money laundering. Is this how we should live? That's a question maybe SASRA, CA, and the CPK can tell us. Secondly, that one maybe you can respond to why it takes too long, to why the institution do not even react, even just find a respect to respond even to your letters. The last point I wanted to ask, as you see it, in the service level agreement between the vendor, the cooperative, and the network provider, the service level agreement should be for 3. But in most cases, you find that the vendor will do a service level agreement, but the integrator is remote. It's very remote. In the event of an attack, you find that even the liability, it's remote too. So I think it's important that as we enter into this contract, because we are all liable and jointly wanting to protect these resources, let's sit together, the vendor, the integrator, and the Sacco, so that we can be able to mitigate, and everybody must be liable. So that when this business operates, the network provider should have a situation whereby they validate any process, any transaction should be validated between the numbers, particularly in mobile banking. The numbers that are in the vendor, that the numbers the Sacco has provided, and the number that is transacting should be validated at all points, so that there is no foreign number that comes again to be part of the fraud number to be used. So that one will be able to protect. Otherwise, we may sit, discuss, but if we don't be if we don't look at reality and see how we can protect among the 3 partners, then we are leaving it unopen, and at the end of the day, we will not solve this problem. So kindly, the 3 partners should work together. And let me know why the money for these members, some of these members' money are still in banks and in a mobile number somewhere, and yet this is fraud. Maybe, Doctor, you can help us.
Not me, I'm also among the people helped. So see, where is Sitati? I mean, in the meantime, Plester, I believe there's something that was mentioned for Sasra. Maybe you can be able to respond, and then Sitati.
So about returning the money, I think one of my colleagues, Jeremiah, had tried to answer that question, because it's about how you enforce your contract. First, you must require that when something happens, then there has to be investigations, and if the vendor is found to be liable, then you have to use the legal means in the contract to recover the money. We know Safaricom has tried as much as possible to use their means to be able to safeguard the money before it leaves the Sacco pay bill number. So when the money is already lost and the Sacco wants to be compensated, so that has something to do with that, with the SLA, like you are saying. So the contract has to provide for how the money will be recovered. And we have issued our guidelines, I think 3 days ago. You might have not received it because we are on the way, but it has that requirement that you must ensure you and the vendor agree on how the money is compensated. So that's there. I don't think there was another question for Sasra from you, but I want to assure you that we are working with Communications Authority. So soon we shall reach out to you. You give us the contracts where we shall be sending the alerts, and maybe how we shall be receiving the reports from SACCOs, so that we can find out how we can share without disclosing the Sacco or the impact or whoever's been affected, but just a way of warning the rest that this is happening. So be ready and prepare your systems before you are affected. He told us that, and it is known that you can be attacked and you don't know. They say the difference between everybody has been attacked. The difference is only that some know, others don't know. So you will get to know when you find that there's money that you cannot account for when you do your reconciliation. Thank you.
Thank you, Presta. Sitati?
Thank you, President and Chairman. Just to add on what President talked about, issues of capacity also come into play because I believe there are over 350 SACCOs in the country, from what I heard in the presentation in the morning. So you can imagine if all these people are reporting. So what we are actually envisaging is a scenario whereby SASRA will have a fully fledged security operations center that is manned perhaps 24 hours a day to assist in the resolution of cyber threats affecting SACCOs. I think that would be a good place to be. If you have teams that can assist round the clock in handling those issues. So capacity is also a problem. So that's one of the things we'll be looking to establish for SASRA as the regulator. Also, on a national level, yeah, institutions, Chairman, you may say are not shaken, but also the incidents, the cybersecurity incidents are so many to the point whereby even the DCI and other security agencies are overwhelmed. So it might seem like they might be slow, but they might be overwhelmed because there are so many incidents happening. You can imagine you saw the statistics on the number of users in Kenya using the internet, and Kenya being one of the countries in Africa with the largest level of internet penetration. And we're having a young population. So we are very active online, we are very active on social media. So there are so many things happening online. So capacity generally is an issue. Professionals in the information security, there's also a shortage in that. The demand exceeds the supply, but I believe more and more we are getting more people getting into this information security space just to deal with these ever-increasing threats. Also, Preston mentioned about the need to validate, because of the fraud in the money, in the mobile money transfer processes, there's need to always validate claims whenever there's maybe a request for a reversal. I sent money to this pay bill erroneously. What are the processes that that the mobile network operator needs to go through to establish that indeed this money was sent erroneously? And you can imagine that millions of such transactions. So there's bound to be a delay. But eventually, of course, the money will be replaced or returned, although not as fast as you may wish. Also, in terms of the service level agreements, there's need for all the relevant teams to sit together, the procurement teams, the legal teams, the technical teams, to make sure that the interest of the organization, the interest of the SACCO is being protected. You cannot just sign SLAs without taking the due diligence. What are the best practices around the world? Conduct some due diligence so that in the event of an attack, in the event that there's a dispute between the SACCO and maybe a third-party provider, you don't lose your data, or there's a way in which they need to notify you that, okay, fine, we're not in contract anymore, so I'll need to have a period within which I'll hand over the data to you. Then once you're satisfied that you have all your data, then now the contract lapses. So those are the things that need to be considered before getting into these contracts with some of these SLAs, especially for cloud platforms. Yeah.
Now I'm torn between Sitati and Direct. You know, when the matter becomes complicated and your boss is there, you don't have to worry. Now, the matter that is coming from the floor, Director, is sometimes we have difficulties in tracing the money that is lost. For instance, we have cyber attacks in, say, various SACCOs. For banks, from what the person is asking, the banks are able to give the instructions to police how money was lost and the money is recovered. When the SACCOs are hit and money is lost, and say for some lack, money is traced, it is in Bank A. That Bank A is supposed to take the recovered money to Sacco X. Before Sacco X can get that money from the bank, there is a lot and lots of requirements before that money is given back. So, what is it that the SACCOs can do so that the police can help directly? Number two, relates to the capacity, the fully pledged unit that the city has talked about. Now, that is good news for people who are looking for employment. Mnaniona hapo ndani kwa hiyo unit. So, how, I don't know, CAK, how you, if say SASRA decides to comply with that, how you assist SASRA, because even if, say, this unit is established, and I believe it is going to be costly, how you can do cost sharing or something, because I believe you also have a responsibility towards protecting citizens. I think, Director, those are the two questions that were asked. I will respond.
Thank you, Daktari. The disclaimer you gave is the same one I'm giving. These are technical guys. They use languages that even us get confused a bit. But some, in my understanding, might not require a response now. And this is why we are happy in terms of the outcome of this conference, of this roundtable, that we identify where there are gaps, and now we put our heads together in terms of how we address them. Because what is coming out is that in instances where you are hit and you followed all the requirements, it takes too long to get back your money. Now the question is why? Because there could be reasons behind it that needs to be looked at, and we see how to address it. I know where the problem always starts is who is responsible to an extent that we got that attack. There has been always a blame game between the three parties involved. The owner of the core banking system, the integrator, and even the Safaricom. Safaricom blames the integrator blames the Sacco. So by the time you are fighting, even the custodian of that fund will still tell you to put your house in order first. So our problem starts even from us going forward. But this is a take home in terms of the notes we are taking, so that we'll be able to interrogate where is the problem. The beauty is we have case studies which will inform where we start from, so that we can see where exactly is the problem. If the problem is with us, it is easier to address. But again, you are getting the bigger picture. You see now, we are still asking even here, the SLA, how it should be signed. Yet that should be the basic. What is an SLA? You are giving somebody a job, and you are doing a covenant in terms of how you want that somebody to respond to your issues, to address your case. That should be a thing of the past that we've done. We've done it. So, Daktari, I don't have a clear, direct answer to that, but it will be things that is coming out from this discussion so that we can be able to follow by tracking and tracing the process so that we see where could the problem be. Because now we know the players in the system, in this process. We know the players. Then that will now inform in terms of how do we come up with a policy intervention. I think what Sitachi said is a proposal worth considering. A 24-hour. He talked about a 24-hour. That's a proposal. We'll look at it in the context of our capacity and, of course, the relevance in terms of our mandate. But the ideal scenario is that we need to try to make sure that our systems are safe and secure, so that even this long process of recovering money that has been lost, we don't end up there. So what do we do to improve on our systems? So allow me to leave it at that point. I know they are not happy in terms of the response that we'll go to that bank to bring that money. No, we must also look at the root cause of the problem itself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director. And in absence of, there is one more. Right. I think we can say maybe he's even providing answers. Yes. Then after that, gentleman, Yvonne will tell us something, possibly something good.
Thank you so much. My question goes to Sitachi. I'm Rotich from Asima Sacco. I just want to know from our brother Sitachi, because when SACCOs want to onboard a service, be it agency banking or mobile banking, the regulator usually asks us to make sure the service provider has been licensed by the CA. I just want to know, before they enlist or approve a service provider, what do they check for approval mechanism? And in a case where the service provider has consistently failed what you call cybersecurity test, you delist from one of the accredited service providers, and if so, you have a list of those service providers that you have the list that we can check on. My second question is to the fraud unit. Do they really have capacity on cybersecurity? And if they do, or if they don't, the CA comes in to train them so that they can assist SACCOs recovering their funds through either mobile banking or any other means that there is a fraud that has been perpetrated. So, Mr. Sitati, kindly, I request that you may answer on those so that we can be at peace.
Sitati?
Thank you, Rotich. Let me start with the second question. Regarding the capacity of the cyber fraud, I would assume you meant the cyber fraud unit at the DCI, whether they have capacity to fully respond to cyber threats and to provide assistance to SACCOs. Yes, they do. There's a fully fledged team both at the DCI headquarters and at the Communications Authority of Kenya, because we also have law enforcement officers who are resident at the Communications Authority, and they are fully fledged forensic labs in both institutions, and we work hand in hand in the resolution of and response to cyber threats. So they do have capacity, they are well trained, and we also from time to time also provide training to our constituents. As Preston mentioned, he is now a member of the KITSAT team, and one of our responsibilities also is empowering members through technical trainings as and when is required. In terms of the cybersecurity tests, currently the authority don't regulate, if I can use that word, providers, but we advocate for organizations to be, to comply to various ISO standards like ISMS, Information Security Management Systems, 27001 2013, which governs issues of information security within the organization. And that really helps in terms of ensuring your processes are secure. Also, the QMS, Quality Management System, if you implement the QMS together with us as an organization, I think it will really put you in a place whereby you can manage your information security issues quite comfortably. In terms of the checks, currently the requirements for these providers is that you need to have a content service provider license and perhaps an application service provider license, but we don't have specifically a license for providers in cybersecurity. Though in the next financial year, that's one of the things we're working on, to be able to categorize or to be in a position to advise members of the public that this organization qualifies and this one doesn't. But internationally, I talked about the Gartner chart, and the chart provides a list of some of the reputable organizations or institutions that have accredited globally to provide credible systems that you can deploy in your organization. Thank you.
Right. Looks like we are going towards now winding up the session. Sitati, now that we are with the people here and they have heard your response, there is a responsibility that you have thrown to SASRA, and the director has noted it. Also, on behalf of the participants, because being a public body, we also have a responsibility of protecting the people in various sectors. Kindly take it up new. Number one, in relation to what Presta mentioned, the vetting. Number two, now that there are so many problems that have been raised here, and they would want answer. You know, this what we invited you for is Roundtable. You know, Roundtable is what everybody says, and then different agencies pick what they can assist the public with. So, because you've heard the cry of our people here, you've heard the concern, and the leaders you are seeing here are representing, let me say, millions of people. So, if you would have a way, remember there's an appeal I'm making on your behalf, because we do not have any mandate to give responsibility to CAK. But if there's anything you can be able to assist our people and the sector, knowing that you are a member of the Sacco, that can be very good. And then I was told because the Matatu business has its own income stream opposed to your employer. I think without going too much details, that's what I can say. Now, allow me to go to Yvonne. Yvonne, the session was complicated, and I believe you'll say something that will make us smile. Welcome.
Good afternoon, cooperators. Was it complicated? A bit, eh? Yeah, it's not every day that we can get something that we always want. So I have a few announcements to make. We have SACCOs that are not members of Sacco Central, right? How many are not members of the Sacco Central? All of you are members of Sacco Central. How many are not? Have you received any letter from our end? Not yet. There's a circular that has been sent to you so that you can express your interest to join the Sacco Central. So in case you've not received, kindly, you can see Mr. Presta Mbiwa. Presta Mbiwa is the young man who was answering a few questions there. Then we had an issue of the water wastage. The reason as to why we are emphasizing on that water wastage is because we are paying for that water. Number one. Number two, if you leave your water in that bottle, the hotel just pours it on the ground. It is taken as contaminated water. So I am helping you to rehydrate yourself, save on cost, and avoid wastage. The third one, not on shared services this time, but you can share some services later on in the evening. The CEO has offered us an opportunity to mingle differently, not with matters communication and anti-corruption. So we'll meet at around 6:30 to 9. Yeah, from around 6:30 to 9, we'll meet at the place where we were having our lunch and share some juice with the chairman and the CEOs. And on that note, I would request Chairman, Smart Champion, Reverend, you can pray for us, then we wind up the session. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Tumeketi kwa muda mrefu, hebu tusimame tuombe. Tuombe. Mtakatifu, mtakatifu Mungu wa mbinguni, twaja mbele zako jioni ya leo tukirudishia shukurani kwa wema na ulinzi wako ulio mkuu. Asubuhi Mungu tumeanza na wewe, na hata wakati huu uko pamoja nasi. Pokea shukurani na sifa ni zako. Asante kwa kila mmoja wetu kuwa katika kikao hiki bila matatizo yoyote. Mungu, ni ulinzi wako usio kifani. Pokea sifa na shukurani kwa yote ambao ametufunza mengi. Mungu usidi kuwabariki. Sisi ambao tumepokea mengi tangu asubuhi, zidi Bwana kuyaweka maanani katika kazi ambayo iliyo mbele yetu. Tunataka kujikabidhi kwako jioni ya leo ili uendelee kuwa pamoja na kila mmoja wetu. Tumeandaliwa chai iko mbele yetu Mungu. Wakati huu Mungu kibariki hili tutumie ikiwa kimebarikiwa na wewe. Na ni katika jina safi la Yesu Kristo tunaomba na kuamini. Amen.
Reverend ameombea chai. Yes, we have tea outside. We can buy time till around that time. Then we can meet for the Ana amesema inaitwa juice. Okay. Anes Nyale, Mzungu. The SACCOs that are registering with Presta will want you to sit outside so that you're served better there. Anes, please help.